So oftentimes, and if you've had this happen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll be like, yeah, my period is sort of regular and it's, whatever. I'll have cramps and maybe clotting for like a day or so. And it's not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, I was trying to change my habits and I was trying to get really healthy. My period became like clockwork and everything improved and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden I had one period that was really bad. It was super heavy, tons of clots, really painful, etc. Oh my gosh, why? This is why, because your system was able to process everything through. Hey there, welcome to the Female Health Solution podcast, where we discuss women's health, hormones, and everything else in between. Join me as we dive into the tools that you need to live your healthiest life. Does estrogen really matter that much? I think estrogen is not as good for you. We shouldn't have too much estrogen. You don't want to have too much. You don't want to have too little. It's got to be just the right amount. All the things. Estrogen. We're going to talk about what estrogen is in your body, why it's really important, and also my favorite way to help your system regulate it using Eastern medicine herbs right here. I am Dr. Beth Westy, host of the Female Health Solution podcast. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And we're going to dive right in. So estrogen is a hormone that is dominant in the female body, right? Mostly for women, it onsets, puberty, things like that. It is really important for the development of secondary sex characteristics in the female body, and also really helpful during the menstrual cycle to build up that uterine lining. So that's where, for fertility issues, if you do not have enough estrogen, it can be really difficult to build up that uterine lining and have a great place for a fertilized egg to implant. This is something that I will see sometimes with gals that have had a lot of restrictive eating in their history, or a lot of stress, where their system just isn't building up enough oomph, right, to help have that fertilized egg land and grow from there. So that's the main thing of estrogen overall. Other things that estrogen does in the body, and again, this fluctuates in the female body throughout your life, right? Or throughout your active cycling life, right? From puberty through menopause, estrogen is primarily produced by your ovaries, but it's also produced by other tissue. It's produced by neural tissue, adrenal tissue, and super fun, fat cells. Fat cells are estrogenic. So if you have more adipose tissue, fat cells in your body, it can actually produce more estrogen. This becomes really difficult then for gals who have PCOS or endometriosis, fibroids, estrogen dominant issues that are driven by estrogen that cause your system to have more insulin resistance, that then cause you to gain weight and have weight loss resistance. Those adipose tissues then create more estrogen to add to the estrogen dominance. Come on. I know. Right? It's like this fun, never-ending loop then. How do we get out of it? How do we break out of it? Well, we look at your hormones, we see what they're doing, and then we try to address specifically what's happening there. But again, starting with the tinctures, again, I love to utilize estrogen balance and progesterone balance in conjunction together, because this is going to help you produce and maintain the right amount at the right time. Days 1 through 14 of your cycle, days 15 through 28 of your cycle, in alternating fashion. There we go. Okay. So estrogen, though, overall, why do we need estrogen? What does it do? Right? Well, it's actually going to help you build muscle, right? Is it the only thing that does that? No, but it's a really important factor in that. Build muscle, repair muscle tissue. It's really important for bone health. This is like their bone health, teeth health too. Keep that in mind. That's also essential. Your cardiovascular health, right? Heart health is really dependent on estrogen. So again, if you have had low levels or super high levels of estrogen in your system, it can impact those areas, those systems in your body. Yeah. Also important for your urinary tract, your skin, your hair, your nails, other mucous membranes. And one other fun fact about estrogen is that it crosses the blood-brain barrier, which means it impacts brain function, neurotransmitter production, things like that. This does not mean that if you don't have estrogen or you have too much or too little that your brain can't function. It would just mean that a lot of times in that transition, you have to get used to the different function. Your body has this amazing ability to be adaptable to whatever shifts and changes that happen. That adaptability sometimes needs a little bit of time to shift with the new flow of things, we'll say. as long as you're giving it enough support throughout this process. So that is where, again, giving it support with the right tinctures can assist your body in the shift and change of these hormonal processes. So there is that. Last thing, again, postpartum, if you are looking at nursing and providing enough breast milk, estrogen is also really helpful in that. Yes. This doesn't really have anything to do with someone who is postpartum necessarily getting their period back sooner or later than other people. I personally think, again, I say personally, this is my personal opinion on this from having children myself, having women in my family have children, working with hundreds and thousands of women and their process and their family histories of getting their periods back. I honestly think it's just like hereditary, right? I was someone who got my period back after every pregnancy within 4 or 5 weeks, and then had a very regular period after that, even while breastfeeding, even while having thyroid issues. Both of my sisters, same thing, got their periods back right away. My mother, her 2 sisters, all my girl cousins, their daughters that have had kids, all those stuff, right? So it's one of those things that, does that happen for every family? No, there are some women who they will nurse and if they're breastfeeding, they just don't get a period back. You can't force your body to do it, and you don't need to force the estrogen to happen or whatever, so that you can ovulate to produce progesterone to try and have another baby again while you're still breastfeeding your other one. So, but those are some of the basic important things that estrogen does in the body. Estrogen can get a bad rap because for a lot of women, it is out of balance with your progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone are supposed to counterbalance each other, right? Estrogen is supposed to be elevated at certain times of the month, and then progesterone is supposed to be elevated at certain times of the month. If your system can go through that natural flux, that ebb and flow, and you have the right pathways open so your body can process estrogens all the way through, it gets mainly processed by the liver-gut pathway. Smaller amount gets processed through your water pathways, your lymph, kidneys, things like that. That's really, really important and essential. Other thing that I'm going to talk about with estrogen really quick, when we talk about weight loss or metabolism or things like that, keep in mind that if you do lose weight and you have had hormone issues in the past, and say you're 30, you have 30 more pounds on your system than you want to have, you've had before, all that stuff. And with this weight gain, you've had some hormonal disruption, all that going on. And all of a sudden you lose weight, and you lose weight more rapidly. And you're like, why is my period out of whack? Why do I feel like garbage? Why is this or that happening? It can be because there's a release of that excess estrogen. Excess estrogen can get stored in those fat cells, as well as those fat cells then produce more estrogens. But then when you start to shrink those fat cells, the estrogen releases out of it. Your body has to process it out. So oftentimes, and if you've had this happen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll be like, yeah, my period is sort of regular and it's, whatever. I'll have cramps and maybe clotting for like a day or so, and it's not that big of a deal. Oh yeah, I was trying to change my habits and I was trying to get really healthy. My period became like clockwork and everything improved and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden, I had one period that was really bad. It was super heavy, tons of clots, really painful, etc. Oh my gosh, why? This is why, because your system was able to process everything through. How do you help your body with those ebbs and flows and shifts and changes and all this stuff? Herbs. We do talk about eating for your cycle, seed cycling, all of those things to help support that hormonal production month after month after month, because what happens this month with your period is due to the last 3 months or even 6 months of what's been going on with your health, your stress levels, your gut, everything. How do you keep consistent with it? Tinctures. This is what's really helpful. And again, using them in a cyclical pattern, weeks 1 and 2, weeks 3 and 4, right? Weeks 1 and 2, the estradiol balance, week 3 and 4, the progesterone balance, to keep your system managed with that ebb and flow. That way, if anything happens, your system has that pattern and support to go off of. So that's what I got for you guys today. Kind of a quick and easy one, talking about estrogen, the most important points of it. So there you go. Let me know if you have questions. And thank you for being here. I love talking about this stuff. I so appreciate you guys listening to this information. Let me know if you have questions. If you want me to do a deep dive on something, I absolutely can. Share this message with anybody that you know could use this information. If you know someone that's been stuck or frustrated with their hormones, their cycle, whatever, share this. Send them a link. right? There's going to be links below this podcast, links below this so that you can click and learn more information, and also reach out to me if you need anything else. That's what I'm here for. I love talking about this stuff. You can never ask me too many questions, and hopefully this has been helpful, and I will see you guys later on the next episode. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. If you would like more information, just head on over to drbethwesty.com for all the show notes and information from today's episode. And if you're looking for more community, more support, you can find and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and I would love to see you there.